like a person who is not happy with one direction. I don't like to be employed, so I prefer to be employer. If woman can manage family, she can manage all kind of business. You don't look like a farmer, that your children will not be ashamed of you. Do you want to invest in agriculture? And they will say either they already invested or they're planning to invest. My name is Nino Zambakhidze. I'm chairwoman of Georgian Farmer Association, and this interview is for Sakartvelo Insight. That's a reality which is not something that I want to remember because it's a Soviet time. I'm a child of Soviet Union, which I don't think that was a good time for youth and young generation, and especially it was a time that we had several wars, unfortunately. And all my childhood was, the stress, hearing that we have war, hearing that the people are going for strikes and Georgians are fighting for independence, for democracy. So it was quite challenging. And what I would name as a big challenge was that I never received the proper education. I would say European education at that time. We had, dark 90s, and that was something that, limited our freedom in the opinion making, limited our, independency. So I would say that my childhood and then my teenaging time, and then, it was quite hard. Here in Georgia, I graduated technical university, and later I understand that I was really missing good education. So in my 30s, I graduated Grenoble School of Economics, and then I graduated, which is a global management. Then I graduated entrepreneurship in Cambridge College. And then I took several courses in leadership in Stanford and Oxford. I'm like a person who is not happy with one direction. And if I look on my past, you can see that I'm changing direction like every 5 years. So first was English, and I decided to study English because I thought that being translator would be good, and I can generate more income. Then later I changed my direction and I became marketing manager in an auditing company. Then I changed another direction and I became the personal assistant of one Greek guy. And then I said, I don't like to be employed, so I prefer to be employer. So, and then I saw that, there was a good opportunity for me to start my own business. And since that, it's almost 30 years, I'm doing my own business with failures, with successes, but I still prefer to do my business. If you ask my mom, she would say that I was an entrepreneur from my childhood. And when I was a kid, I was trying to develop something or create something and later to sell. I don't know from where it came, but I think that's inside in me, because as I mentioned, I've grown in the time of Soviet Union where entrepreneurship was punished, because people were working underground, entrepreneurs, they were working underground and they've been so-called artelshik. Translation word by word means that out of law and unity of people who do something without rules. That's how it's called. So, with those mentality that I've grown, we knew that we are not able to do anything by our own. We have to have instruction from government, or we have to live in different ecosystem where you don't have freedom. So, that to answer your question from where it comes from, I have no idea, because I've grown in this system. But I think entrepreneurship is more in your personality rather than you develop as a skill or something. My first business idea was in the United States because I went for 1 year studies there. I was like 17 years old. So, and when I saw the totally different country, because in my country there was dark, people were staying in the line trying to buy bread, and there was no electricity, and there was no education, and people were literally starving. And all of a sudden I saw the developed country where and I still remember that outside banners saying, "Why is the rush? Where are you going?" And in my country, it was like a very slow development. And I saw United States where everything was like literally blooming. So first business idea came to sell jeans, which is a Gap jeans, which is very famous now, but at that time in Georgia, no one knew about that. So I started my business. I was sending this Gap jeans to my country, and here my father's friend was selling it. And after 1 year, when I returned back, I thought that I would have fantastic business, but I understood that friend of my father unfortunately escaped. He took all my money, he took all business, and that was my first failure. And there was a time that my family was pushed to sell everything because I had a loan in the United States. So I was supposed to, cover the loan. And there was a time when first I thought that I will not do my business again, because when I came here, it was, and it's still, unfortunately, there is a stereotype that women cannot run business separately. So everyone was saying that, how you dare to start it, and you see now in what kind of situation family is. So that was a very hard time for me, and it was a moment when I first thought that I will not do my business anymore. But being entrepreneur inside, so it didn't stop me. So my family helped me a lot. We overcame this challenge. We covered the loan. Then I started again, to be employed. So I found another job. But now when I see, when I'm looking back, I'm still thinking that was a, good lesson, which I took from my father's friend, what we are not supposed to do. Yeah. When I started my business, it was very hard. Now situation is much better. We see more empowered women, and we see a lot of women who are trying to do their own business or try to make some changes. But I think that's a very cultural, because if you will see our past, I don't know how it's in different countries, but more or less what I hear from women, everyone is on the same page. But in Georgia, it was like this. If you had a man and a girl, kids, everything was for a man. And for women, it was a stereotype that she will get married. So education was for a boy, real estate was for a boy, and at the end, for women, there was nothing unless, someone would marry. That stereotype, is still there sometimes. If you go to the regions, you will still find those kind of challenges. But what it gave us was that we had no access to financial capital, we had no proper education, and that was just literally influencing the situation and ecosystem where women were having a lot of challenges. So nowadays it's much more better. Besides that, I'm the only kid in my family, and I had the education, and I had the real estate. I do remember when I started my business, I went to the financial institution, to the bank, and I wanted to take the loan, and they told me they will not give it to me because I'm a woman. So that was literally the breaking point for me. So I said, if they are not giving me money, and I will not name the bank, now they're trying to do their best to empower women, but that was that was the mentality, and that was also stereotype, and that was the attitude towards women. So, and since then I started to empower women in different directions, especially in rural areas. not to face the same challenges what I was facing as a woman entrepreneur. When I started women empowerment, I attract different donor organizations, and I told them that there is something we have to do, because empowering women is not empowering only her; it's a family empowerment. So, and from my point of view, if woman is not educated, she is raising uneducated kids. So, and if we want to make some changes, it has to be gender equality. So no matter is a man or woman, so they have to treat each other and the family equally. So I started to bring these cases into donor communities' attention. So we asked them to support women in rural areas, because what I found out that majority, I would say 80% was done by women, but the show off was for men. So, she was doing everything, and then when it came, to decision making, or when it came to the gathering, or, public speaking, or whatever, then you'll see the men, right? So, and we started empowering women. We were giving them grants. Also, increasing their capacity, delivering proper education, how to manage properly the business. Because, again, from my point of view, if woman can manage family, she can manage all kind of business. Because this is the most complicated, like you have to know logistics, you have to know diplomacy, you have to know negotiation, you have to know, purchase management, storage, everything. So if woman runs the family, she can run all kind of business. And that's again the stereotype that there are things that women cannot do. No, opposite. There are things that men cannot do, but women can do everything. I would not say it's only Georgia and Georgian perspective. I think that was a worldwide agenda, where Georgia is also the part of the world, right? So it was not like one day in Georgia everything has been changed. No, because if I will step back, and at that time, if you would ask me, do you have role model, or do you have anyone that you want to become? I would name men, because there was no woman, right? So it was like even very few in the world. Some politicians, but very rarely you could find the businesswoman, right? So maybe there were some, but in Georgia they weren't famous. So step by step, because of world's agenda, that gender equality became very important topic, because of the donor community, because of women who went to different countries and returned back, and they found the proper power to come and speak up. So I think that step by step has changed it, and now if you go out, you will see hundreds of women who are in business, who can, be a role model for others. And also, government pushes the gender issue, donor community, private sector, corporate social responsibility. So I think that mental change was not only for Georgia, it was like a worldwide, and that's the result how world responds to those issues. I started my own business back in 2008, which was farming. It was a funny story. Should I say the story? Okay, that's a very funny story. I'm a very city person who never had a village, and my business partner got drunk and bought 2 cows. He called me and he said that, I bought 2 cows, and if guys are watching us, they will, agree that it's nonsense to argue with the drunk guy, right? So he bought 2 cows. I said, okay, that's perfectly fine. So after 1 month, we had the call from village, and it was an ethnical minor village in Zambakhidze. So they called us and they said, okay, you bought 2 cows, come and take care of these cows. I had a heart attack. Literally, because, first I never had the village, and the second I had nothing common with agriculture. The only thing that I knew, product from the shelves of the supermarket. So I told him, I don't want to go. And he asked me, why we don't go just check what is the surrounding. And at that time, my youngest child was poisoned by dairy product. And my mom, she was like also pushing, saying that, why you don't go there and find proper farmers who will, supply us with a quality product. So I went there. I saw the awful reality with the hygiene. And, I thought that my child was lucky that he survived, because the way the product was produced, he was very lucky. So I came back and I said, okay, there is something we have to do, because if my child is suffering and, I don't have access to the quality product, I can imagine how others are suffering as well, and what kind of intervenes, the Georgian agriculture needs. So I came back there to Tbilisi, like whole 3 hours. I was not talking. I had like a shock. So I came back and I started investigation how I can do something for, for production, or is it any opportunity for women, because, I had a very bad experience with financial institution. So I was very lucky, because Millennium Challenge Corporation was funding women in agriculture. So I wrote the proposal. I won $125,000. And I started building the small factory, dairy processor. And the problem started there, because I had the money, I had the willing to build, but there was no one who could advise me what to do and how to do. So I went to the neighbor, and when I was sitting there, this guy told me that, Nino, we do understand what you are doing now, but be sure that your children will not be ashamed of you. And I'm like, why? And he told me that everyone who is living in the villages, they are not saying that we are farmers, because they're ashamed. And they're hiding it from friends. And I'm like, but you are doing fantastic things. And he said, yeah, but be sure, because you are now so much dedicated, you are building your factory, you move here to live, and one day be sure that your kids will not, complain. That was very hard. And I started investigation, what happened and why these people are so, so stressful, and why kids are ashamed of their activities. And I found out that it was also a stereotype, and it was also Russian stereotype, that we've never been called farmers. We've been called as a peasants. But if you want to joke on someone, you would say, you're a peasant. So it meant at that time that you are not educated, you are hired by someone, so everyone gives you instruction what to do, and you don't have like your own life. You do, but your I would say proper life. So then I came and I called to my friend who has gone the same way. So I told him there is something we have to do. And he told me, what can we do? I said, we have to create a non-governmental organization and help first to destroy this stereotype, because, people are producing, they are producing the, food for us, and they are ashamed that they are doing these things. So we started campaign. We established the Farmers Association, me and my friend. So for the beginning, we've been 2. And we literally went in 3,000 villages with the campaign called Farmer is a Patriot. We were going to door, and we were asking, if you will stop production, what's going to happen? And farmers were responding that people will die. And then we were asking, who is most important in this country, president, prime minister, or farmer? And they would say, that's right, farmer. So then we were just pushing them to be, to hold the paper saying that, like, for example, my name is Nino, I'm producer of potato or, cheese, and I'm very proud that I'm farmer. So I started this campaign with my friend, and in 1 year, so we found out that no one was ashamed to be a farmer. So then, step by step, we started to also to make like a feasibility, what was a need, what was like a agriculture missing. So whatever we were looking, we were responding with the Farmers Association. We attracted several donors, and we've helped farmers first to promote themselves. Second, vocational education was crucial because in farming sometimes you don't need the master's degree, you need the vocational education and skilled workforce, right? So we helped them also in the capacity building. Then we found out that they started production, but there was a huge challenge access to market. So we helped them to sell their products in hotels, restaurants, and cafes. And we had a fantastic team of pioneers like Ajara Group, who was the first one who said no to imported products and supported our farmers. And then we also started thinking, what are other possibilities that we could involve, like whole community, youth to stop migration, women who are in the rural areas, and as well, the men farmers. So we found out that agritourism was also the best opportunity to support rural people because it, develops different services. And step by step, we started growing, and now we started operation. And also, I have to mention that for this government, it was a priority to develop agriculture. So a lot of donors entered Georgia. So we've been established in 2012 and started operation in 2014. And right now we are uniting more than 5,000 farmers in all over the country. And once you will interview other businesses, just ask, do you want to invest in agriculture? And they will say either they already invested or they're planning to invest. When we created Farmers Association, it was very hard for men because majority in rural areas and the farmers were men, and the average year was 60 to 65. It was for them like, shock when woman was entering in the sphere that first it was considered that she's not allowed because farming is not for a woman. But on the back, if you would see like dairy or primary production, there was only women.
Absolutely.
So it was quite hard for me, personally for me as a woman, to establish myself among this men. And everyone would say, she's woman, she will not be able to do those kind of things. And the first, I would say, shock was when I delivered speech, and all of a sudden the man came to me and he said, you don't look like a farmer. And I'm like, can you explain me how farmer has to look like? So again, there was a mental issue, that imagination, how farmer looks like. So they were expecting, lady who is not dressed properly, or she never cares about her visuality. So, and we said, it's not an issue, of each individual. That's a social issue. So we have to change those kind of things. And I would say that also helped me because no one was taking me seriously, and maybe it also gave me some time to grow, and also to see this issue from different angle, and then to address all these issues like it was personally for me. So I think while we are now successful is as a farmers organization, which now employs 90 staff. So I think that we came with my team from the perspective what I want to have in order to become farmer. So whatever was in need, like education, we delivered education. Access to market, we delivered access to market. Then promotion, I myself became a journalist, and every Wednesday I have my own TV program just to promote youth, women, and the farming. Then we said, okay, in the 21st century, what are those things that we can stop migration and attract more farmers? And we have digitalized everything. We started with a mobile application called Argonavti. That was in back 2017, and I do remember when we launched this application, everyone was saying, no one will use this application. And I'm saying, why? And they're saying, oh, because farmers are not interested in the application and they don't have access to smartphones. I said, okay. So then I went to the telecommunication companies and I told them, can they do as a social responsibility to lease, for the minimum price, the smartphones to farmers and also give them the internet? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So we started just to give smartphones to the farmers. So later we taught them how to use application, because without going from their houses, they could sell their products. They could get all kind of information, starting with the e-auction up to, the new legislation which came into force, or whatever they might imagine, they had in one application. From 2017, everyone again was saying, yeah, but it's not good, it's not good. When pandemic hit it, and no one knew that we would have corona, right? So all farmers were sending us information that the best thing what we've done in 2017 was this application, because they were easy selling their products. They were telling and informing us what challenges they are facing in the terms of pesticides use, chemicals use, because everything, different regions were in a lockdown. So I would say that there are things which has, again, unfortunate stereotypes which needs to be destroyed. And once you will destroy, then no one remembers what was in the past, and everyone eagers to develop it further. I would even say that in the 20th of November, we're celebrating Farmers' Day. So we also pushed government to make Farmers' Day. The previous minister, he also was happy to accept our offer, and now we're celebrating our day. So it became very trendy. It became very important for countries' development. And what we see now, that this push also supports now the food security, because no one was expecting we knew how Russia would react, because we have war with them, some of them it's not with the gun, but we have economical war with them. But no one would expect, those kind of interventions and those kind of tragedy what they're causing. But food security now, it became worldwide the majority, as a huge issue. And with this push from 2014 up to now, what we've done is that we motivated more people to be part of agriculture and to be, self-confident and be, happy whatever they are doing. So now, and from that time, I was still thinking that the farmers are patriot, and now we see, their main role in further development, while the hunger might come, in 20, 25 years, in the terms of food security. So I think when we started, it was the right time to do so. Yeah, I think Georgia has a great opportunity to produce a quality product, organic and biodynamic, because for 30 years agriculture has been stagnated in this country. The lands, arable lands, were not planted, or there was no proper, I would say, care, and no one touched the land. We have somewhere 600,000 hectares of arable land in this country, and I would say half of it is not touched yet, because there are several reasons for that. There is no proper infrastructure, no proper, education, what I'm naming every time, and access to financial capital remains still challenge. And because of those kind of things, that no one was trying to produce. So now what we see as a dynamic, that we don't go for industrial agriculture, which me personally I don't like, because that's a good sense when you have tourists here and who is saying that Georgian tomato tastes like a tomato and Georgian cucumber tastes like a cucumber. So because we don't have like a mass production, we don't have for now industrialized agriculture. What we have is like a small and medium-sized farming, which personally I prefer to have like that, because medium-sized and small-sized and even large-sized businesses are very good for country's economical development, rather to be, dependent on one large industrial agriculture. But what I would say could be very good for Georgia in the terms of organic production or biodynamic production is to create the cooperatives. But again, here is another mental challenge with the Russian influence, that cooperatives were considered as the kolkhozes, so-called kolkhozes in Russian times. So people, they are not happy to deal with that, because they still don't understand the value of cooperation and cooperatives. So they are still in the understanding how kolkhozes have destroyed their lives. So here is a huge potential, and all kind of people, like investors or just motivated young people, when they are coming to me and asking, in what we can invest in agriculture, I would say in everything, because country who was 100% export dependent, export oriented. It was back after 30 years or 40 years ago, now became 70% import dependent. So there is a huge possibility that the country could gain those kind of opportunities. We are saying now that Georgia is agrarian country. We have potential, but we are not agrarian for now, because we still do not produce what we have to produce, and we do not produce in the terms of capacity what kind of possibilities we do have. And unfortunately, the reality was that we last for 6-7 years, we see a lot of migration from the regions. These skilled, young, enthusiastic people are leaving their own countries, and they are going to live abroad. And sometimes, living abroad doesn't give them benefits, because, I hear some complaints from them that they made a mistake when they left their country. So I think this is something that it's not only association, but the whole country has to think of. Because as I mentioned, while you are having problems in the terms of the skilled workforce, because we don't have proper education. But the thing is that also there is another crucial thing. I was yesterday discussing it with my colleagues in Holland, that they are facing the same problems, because average year everywhere farmers is like a 60 and up, and young people, they don't want to be part of agriculture anymore, because they can freelance, they can work on digital direction. They are now working for metaverse, for different digital platforms, while there is no one who will work on land. So that's a big challenge. And in that response, what we did is that we also digitalized the platform called Agro Jobs. So in Georgian, it's agro is better, jobs means, but in English it's Agro Jobs. So what we did is that we mapped all kind of organizations who were willing to hire skilled people, so they might be in touch with each other. Because as you see in the regions, there are some organizations, but the locals, they don't have access. They don't know if they are really willing to hire someone, or there are vacancies. In big cities, we have 2 platforms, so you can apply, but in villages it's a bit different. So we started to promote that platform, so they will be able to go and to check if there is a possibility, so they can be hired. Another what we are doing is it's like a work-based learning. So we teach them and they get theory into the vocational colleges and the practice in the businesses. And then, the business is paying, they have benefit, and if they like the skilled staff, so they can hire them. So that's a possibility how you can employ the skilled people. But again, vocational education is also part of this, stereotype, because in Soviet time, if you would punish your kid, and if you want, if you wanted to say something like, if you will not study, you will go for vocational education, and there was like a punishment of kid. While in developed world, in developed Europe, vocational education is number one. And in Holland, for example, or in Switzerland, if you want to become farmer, you have to get the certificate. And this certificate is like similar of the bachelor's degree. So that's also, whatever me and my association are trying to do is to break first the stereotype, make some mental change, and then go ahead. Again, there is a mental issue. So that's because of this 30 years, stagnation in agriculture. First, we have to destroy these stereotypes. We have to make some mental changes to think outside of the box, not to be narrowed, whatever you heard that's right. So, and then, to proceed with that. All is about mindset, especially because if you ask those countries who've been part of Soviet Union, they're facing literally the same challenges what we are facing. So there was I would say, a mental stagnation of people, or the direction what the Soviet Union was giving, and coming out from that is mindset change, which is not easy at all, because sometimes you need generations to do so. The first awful reality is that first they occupied 20% of Georgian territory, and lately they're moving their own fence, and they were taking literally my farmers with their own harvest. So one fine morning I would wake up and there is a call from farmers saying that he is not in Georgia anymore, he is on the occupied side of Georgia. So that was very harmful, and it's awful reality what we are facing from Russia. Another thing is that we have with them economical war, and we do remember what happened with the Georgian wine embargo, when they totally destroyed farmers and rural people. So, and they are using these tools whenever they want. Unfortunate reality is we are still Russian dependent in the terms of sales and import and export, and they can use that weapon whenever they want. So, from me, those kind of attitude and think what they are doing with Ukraine now, it's not accepted, because our generation and even further, my parent generation, they fight it to be independent. They fight it to have the democracy, rule of law, and breathe at least the way they want, not instructed by someone what they have to do and how to act. The farmers cannot do it alone, right? So there is a government who has to promote the Georgian products abroad and diverse market. The second is donor community, who is investing a lot in that regard. Private sector, their corporate responsibility as well, and non-governmental, non-partisan organizations. So everyone have to work together. If you cut the pie and you take out one piece, so this guy you cannot unite this pie anymore, right? So that's exactly how you have to work to diverse your market and not to be Russian dependent. So there are a lot of issues why Georgia is Russian dependent. If you go to rural areas, they would say because of language, they don't have language barrier. They don't have, for example, huge demand and requirement for the international standards. There are things that they would tell you why they prefer Russia. But on another side, we have European Union, we have a free trade agreement, the CFTA agreement with European Union, we have GSP Plus with the United States, we have different free trade agreements with different countries. So, and we have 500 million population open market where you can sell your products. You can, generate more income in production where you don't use pesticides and chemicals. It can be, organic, high organic, biodynamic. So you can produce the quality product and sell to international market, not to be Russian dependent. But this is a joint effort which has to be done jointly. Separately, no one can do anything. And Russian propaganda in that regard works perfectly fine, going to regions and saying that for what you need European Union, they are requiring standards from you. For what you need European Union, because you will have their language barrier, you don't know how to enter in different countries, you will have troubles in the market penetration, so different reasons. And when you are self-confident, you don't know if you can do by yourself, so then you question yourself, right? Should I prefer Russian market that they can come and buy right away, or should I think long term, right? So I think market diversification is most important that each of us have to do. We don't have borders anymore. I mean, this social media, this digitalization, it destroyed the borders. I mean, we can connect to each other without any issue. Climate change is a global, so it doesn't have any borders anymore. Food security is a world issue. Gender equality, so I mean, you name it. Everything is now on digital world when you don't have borders. So while you don't have borders, so everyone can be influential, right? And everyone can make small changes which can bring into big changes. Most influential, I would say, Zura Joania. He passed away. He was Prime Minister of Georgia, who was, who was visionary. And he started, and he was the first one who said that I'm Georgian, therefore I'm European. So from my point of view, he was an influencer, he was a visionary who wanted to bring Georgia on that level where the Georgia is part of Europe. What I see is that if we will enter into bureaucracy, then countries will stop, their own development. And even in the World Economic Forum, they're trying to find the ways how to put the World Economic Forum into metaverse, right? So there will be situation where the bureaucracy will not work. So someone might put into that direction, but I don't think that it will come back, in that regard, because I don't know. I think Georgia is out from this bureaucratic, bubble, like less than 20 years. Even with the ranking of the World Bank, like 2020, we've been on the 8th of doing the business. So everything is digitalized. You go, you register, you open bank account, and etc. So you cannot take, into the paperwork now. So whenever you see the progress, you cannot regress it, right? So I don't think, if we will enter in that, direction, yeah, it's going to be, stagnation again. So we will not go forward, we will go back. But I don't think that even population will allow to do so. Farming was not accepted as a business. It was more like self-sufficient production, not a business. And because of this, farmers, they never thought that they're important, or those things what they are doing is like needed, or country values them, or people appreciate their work. So I think those kind of things brought them very down. So they were saying, okay, we're farmers, no one pays attention to us and stuff like this. So I think that was a reality. But now when you go to farmers, they're too much motivated and they're not ashamed what they do, and they have self-confidence. there are a lot of things which has to be done, right? Access to financial capital, infrastructure, insurance, education. So there are 100 things that I would, name why they are demotivated. But, the trend we see that they're self-confident now, and they produce, and they're very proud. So I think everything starts from that, from inner, when you think, okay, what I'm doing first, I love. The second, it's needed, and the third, someone appreciates. And I don't think that there is anyone in this world who doesn't appreciate farmers' job, because if they will not produce, then we will starve, and the hunger will be there, and then there will be a lot of challenges. So I think more or less we are now in the right direction. A lot of has to be done, but up to now, what we did, they gained the self-confidence. Georgia has a huge entrepreneurship opportunity, because we see a lot of inspired young people. Some of them, they're afraid because they don't know how to start business, and they see, starting business as a challenge. But, every time I'm meeting with the youth, I'm saying that, there is no success without failure. If you don't fail, it means that you will not grow, and that you will not study from your own mistakes. And it's like a personal thing, that if you don't study by your own mistakes, then if someone will advise you something, you might not, take into consideration. So there is a huge potential, because we have a successful startup businesses. Fortunately, now we have social media, that we have a lot of, I would say, mentors who could advise and, mentor the startups and follow up their, success or failure. I think step by step this entrepreneurship will develop in this country, and it has to, because of youth. And what they have to remember, that's my favorite slogan, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So they have to accept the failure as their lessons learned and continue. If they will fail, there is a one step before success. So they have to, continue. And the thing is that they have to be flexible. They have to be educated, because entrepreneurship competition is not local anymore. It's a global. So they have to compete globally, and they have to invest their effort, and they have to invest their, energy in order to become successful. I would say that we're gonna digitalize everything and give the opportunity to everyone, every citizen and population, not to leave them behind. So to digitalize everything, and also to motivate youth to stop migration, and to start investing in agriculture, and as well to promote agrotourism, because we see that agrotourism is number one, will become number one worldwide, especially after pandemic, because besides that we are socially connected, at the end we're socially disconnected from each other. So what we have to promote is rural tourism and agrotourism, which directly develops primary production, develops agriculture, attracts more tourists. So this is a project that we are working now to bring Georgia again on the world map. And in nearest future, we will introduce this platform as well. Georgia for me is the place that I will not be able to live, because I tried several times and I came back. And for me, it's a country which gives you opportunity. Oh, that's a very good question. No one has asked me it before. I think that's a country which gives you opportunity and possibility nowadays to move forward. And it's a time where everyone can contribute to the country's development. And this is a time because we have to become nearest future candidates of European Union, and this is a country that each of us have to contribute in. So that's Georgia for me.